Hey, this is Danny, and it's been a while since I made a video on this channel, my Awakening with Danny channel, but I figured now was the perfect time because literally every part of my life, I believe, is in transition right now. And not just like right now, but literally in these last few weeks, and as we move forward into the next few weeks, all right now, everything. So I'm going to kind of talk through that a little bit, give you a little life update on what's going on, all the areas that are in transition, and then start to share about kind of what makes it possible to deal with all of this without having a nervous breakdown. So here we go. Everything is in transition. My kids are 23 and 27. My kids are 23 and 27. I really have to think about that. I'm terrible with dates and everything having to do with that. So anyway, time as it is. But so my kids are those ages. My son Thomas was living with me and in my apartment in Kansas City. He has just moved out within the last few weeks and got his own place. My daughter Sierra's been living on her own for quite a while. So she has been moved out, but it's been me and Thomas for like the last 3 or 4 years. So he just moved out, which makes me an empty nester for the first time. For the first time in my whole life, I'm living alone. Well, kind of. Anyway, I got to have a few weeks at the apartment after Thomas moved out. That was kind of my empty nest time. At the moment, I'm in Missoula and I'm kind of staying with my best friend growing up. I'm actually sleeping in her house, but the van is parked out front and I am, transitioning into literally full-time van life. So the first transition is empty nester, my kids both being gone. My second transition is moving into my van full time. I have some things at Deb's and I'm sleeping in her spare room for now, but everything I own is pretty much in this van, except for I do have some things in storage at my mother's house, which is in Illinois. So my kids are in Kansas City, my mom and some of my stuff is in Illinois, and I and my van are in Missoula. So those are two big things. Moving into the van, I have a full van life channel that's called You and Me Living Free, but this is my other channel, and this is where I talk about the work behind the scenes in creating a life that you love. Like, what kind of work did I have to do, and am I still doing, to be able to kind of break out of the hamster wheel of like everyday life. Hamster wheel, by that I mean like, do your job, come home. I was like, work 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, have your weekends to try to catch up, have a vacation once in a while. And it was basically slowly killing me. It was basically slowly just sucking away my life force. I say it was like sucking my soul out of my body. It was soul sucking. Now, this job that I had was not considered horrible. They were not horrific conditions. A lot of people would have been just fine and happy, and a lot of people are happy in this environment and everything that I was in. I'm not dragging on that at all. I am saying that for me, for whatever reason, and there were many, it was extremely difficult and not working. So let's get back to the transition, because since I haven't posted on this channel for a while, I've tried to make this video like 4 times, but I keep getting into too many different topics and too many different things. So I'm going to try to stay focused on everything that's in transition, set off a little bit at the end about how that's possible to have everything in transition all at once and not go crazy with it. And then after that, start dividing into specific topics that have helped me to build this life that I have dreamed of and that I have wanted for so long and that I love every moment of. So here we go. the empty nest, the move into the van, moving Kansas City to Missoula. So I don't know my way around. I only have one friend here, well, one friend and her family. And then she has a whole community of people set up here. So I've met some peripherally, but I mean, I'm sure I will meet more, get more involved in some of that with her. I've joined a Facebook group that's, new to Missoula or something like that. And so I'm starting to look at their events and things. So moving to a new town where I don't know my way around. I don't know what there is to do. I don't have a community here. I don't have a job here, or actually I do, but I have a couple of part-time jobs that I am kind of cobbling together to make ends meet right now. And so hopefully I'll get more to supplement what I have so far. So I am looking for work. I'm finding my way around a new city. I'm trying to establish new daily routines and things like that will support my life. In this move to Kansas City, everything is transitioning with my relationship with my kids. When I was in Kansas City, my son and I lived together. We are extremely close. We depended on each other in different ways, and it went both ways here and there. My daughter and I, even though she had moved out, we were like, in a lot of ways, like best friends and very good supports for each other. And we saw each other probably 2 to 3 times a week consistently. We would go on walks, we'd go out to dinner, we did all kinds of stuff, go to coffee shops. She was a student who just graduated with her master's, so she would need to go to a coffee shop or a library for 3 or 4 hours, and I would go with her, and we would have some time to talk, and then we would each do our own computer work or reading or whatever. We were extremely close. So I'm missing both of my kids already, even though I just got to Missoula 1 week ago today is when I got here. So even though I have only left them, and I spent my whole winter in Arizona and Baja, Mexico. So I was gone from them for 3 months then. But this time in Missoula, I'm not going to get back to see them for probably at least 4 months, because I'll be in Missoula June, July, August, September, and get back to the kids sometime in late September, early October. Then in October, I'm doing the beet harvest. I'm going to work that with my friend Sharon. We're going to work the beet harvest together. So the transition and the difference in the relationships and the closeness that I have with my kids, all my relationships, leaving all of my friends in Kansas City. I have lived in Kansas City for like 30 years. So I mean, I have a lot of friends. I have shared some of that stuff on my other channel with just me getting together with everybody before I left town and things. So my friends, I have a romantic relationship that is in transition. I have a very, very good friend. Well, anyway, that can get sticky and complicated. But anyway, I have a romantic relationship that is in transition. I left my job, my 9 to 5 months ago before the winter, but I am getting ready to start a new part-time job, which is working at for a concert festival and for different concerts that are happening at a local amphitheater. So I have some part-time kind of gigs set up here and there. And so that's all rolling, but that'll all be new. Like even a couple of the different things that I have are in different venues. It'll be like learning a whole new thing each time. Like it is a ton of changes. I have sold my Camry and I'm driving a high top van for the first time in my whole life. And so I'm driving a 2013 Nissan NV 2500. And what that means is I can stand up in the back, which is amazing if you're in van life at all. But it also means this is my first high top. It drives so different. I tell people I feel like I'm back in the pioneer days, you know, and you would see the covered wagon and you would hear like the clanking of metal and pots and creaking of the wheels and everything as you go along the bumpy trail. That's how I feel like when I drive anywhere. That's how I feel. I cannot go through any drive-throughs. I'm very tall. I'm over 9.5 feet tall because the drive-through at McDonald's is 9.5 feet. And I cannot go under under it. I can't park at the library because it's all underground parking. I can't go through a drive-through. It is so much to get used to. Gas, I get like 10, 11, 12, 13 miles to the gallon. I'm used to getting 20 to 24. I mean, talk about transition, like just going from the car to the van and having to drive the van every single place I go. Cause for years I had both. I had my van that I would travel in, and then I had my Camry back home. It was a 2011 Camry. It wasn't like a new car or anything, but man, I love my Toyotas. I love the dependability, love the mileage, love the fact that it never took any service or just regular maintenance, and that there was never anything wrong with it. I drove it to, I think it had 150,000 miles, and I just sold it. So the money from the sale is partly what has allowed me to have this transition time when I'm not working full time or anything. But it is hard to get rid of that Camry and to drive this thing full time. And so those are just a few of the things, like off the top of my head, like, so financially, everything's changing. In my relationships, everything is changing. My, I would say, like, emotionally, everything, you know, things are changing. Spiritually, things are changing, but I haven't really addressed that, but that's its own kind of thing. I've done a lot of deconstruction work in the last year and a half, and I'm going to do a full video on deconstruction. I don't know if anybody else has done that kind of work before, but it has really, really helped me kind of level up and be ready for the next level of transitions. And so when COVID happened, a year after COVID started in 2021, when COVID happened, I, like a lot of people, went onto YouTube for, I don't know, I wanted to look at tiny home living. I always wanted a house on the beach. So I always wanted to live by the water. And my son, when I got my divorce way back in like 2008, 2009. I filed in 2007, but it didn't become final till late 2008. But anyway, that was a battle, but that's definitely a story for another time. So back in 2008, so it's been like 19 years. I knew that, and we put it in my divorce decree. I could not move out of Kansas City with the kids until my youngest was 18, because, you know, their dad was part of their life and he was in Kansas City, not going anywhere. And we didn't want to do the whole big travel thing. I agreed to that during our divorce. My kids were only 4 and 9 when I got a divorce. So that was a long time ago. They're grown now, right? As I mentioned. So what was my point here? I'm going to try to stay on track. Even back then, I thought, as soon as Thomas is 18, I'm out of here. But then, you know, Kansas City became my home, everything, but I still never really wanted to stay in Kansas City. Never. I always wanted to live somewhere beautiful, and particularly possibly on the beach, if possible. I didn't want to deal with winters. I grew up in Illinois, and in Kansas City, the winters were a little bit better, but not much. And so I always wanted to avoid winter. I get seasonal affective disorder. I get very depressed in the winter. I don't like gray days. So it was always a dream of mine to move out of Kansas City and have somewhere warm. I started to research tiny homes on YouTube during COVID. I eventually found Bob Wells, who has the Cheap RV Living YouTube channel. Many of you know him, but if you're not into van life stuff, you might not. But anyway, he's an icon, and he made van life seem so approachable and so like you could do it for much less money if you were inclined to, if that was your goal. You can spend as much money as you want living this way. Like if you have a big rig and you stay at, KOAs and Thousand Oaks, and you stay at nice places and you do bougie food and you do all the activities. I mean, you can spend 5, 7, whatever $1,000 a month, living in some kind of camper or RV or whatever situation, or even a van. You can definitely spend that if you want to. But for someone who's on a budget and is looking for, my thing has always been like, the less I need, the more free I am. The less I need, the more free I am. And it really got solidified during COVID. So when I realized the tiny house situation, which is, a lot of them are still very overpriced. The zoning and everything is not usually set up for them. At that time, especially, there just weren't that many real communities that were available. I didn't have the kind of money to get into one that I thought it might take. All kinds of things. And I didn't see them in any areas that I particularly wanted to live in either. So I decided, I got the idea in 2020, 2021, that I would try van life, that I would try traveling in a minivan. I bought a Toyota Sienna minivan, and I just put some plastic containers in it. And I started initially with a cot for a bed, and then I made a platform bed with plywood and 2x4s. And that was as fancy as my routine ever got. And for a year and a half, I traveled back and forth from Kansas City to different destinations and different areas of the country. And I traveled for a year and a half. During that time, I had a health scare, and I didn't have any information for the doctor. I just, did a little research online, and I went through this kind of come to Jesus moment where it was like, okay, where I really started to get more comfortable examining the fact that nobody gets out of this thing alive, and examining like my own death. Like, how would I feel? Like, what would make life worth living? Nobody's promised tomorrow. What if I was given a year to live? And when I was out traveling in that minivan, and I asked myself the serious question, what would happen if I had a year to live? What would I want to do if I had 6 months to live? And what would I want to do if I had a year or two or whatever to live? And what my answer was, I want to do exactly what I'm doing. I wanted van life. And it was kind of a shock. When I started van life, I had never even been a camping person. I'd never seen the United States other than like I'd fly into Cancun or San Diego or Chicago or Miami or somewhere touristy. I had flown in. I would do the touristy thing. I would rent a car. I would stay for 3 or 4 days, LA, Santa Barbara. All the kind of traveling that I had done was to tourist destinations, was to fly in, rent a car, drive around for a few days, and then leave. And van life offered me the opportunity to do something completely different, and also offered the opportunity to do it on a budget. So this isn't a commercial for van life. What it is it's just telling how I decided that this is the kind of life I want. This is the kind of life I want, like, period. Like that, I want to go where I want to go, when I want to go there. I want to be free to be in beautiful environments and be more in nature. One of the great things COVID did to me was prove to me that I love nature. And I never realized that before. I was always an air conditioning girl. I was a let's stay inside kind of girl. And I'm not anymore. I love the beach. It's my first love. But then I fell in love with the mountains and the valleys and the rivers and the Great Lakes. All of it. I love it. And I want freedom. So again, my mantra now these days in the last 5-6 years is the less I need, the more freedom I have. The less I need, the more freedom I have. And that is true in a relationship. It's true in a job. It's true in all areas of life. Like the less I really need, especially finance, the less I need to pay for, the less I have to have financially, the less obligated I am, the more choices I have. If I'm not paying more than half my money every single month to like rent and utilities and all of that kind of thing, then I have more choices. If I'm in my van, then I can stay for free at certain places. I can stay for lower cost at other places. I can I have more control over my expenses, all kinds of benefits like that. So I have been working on myself for a long time. If you named like a methodology, I have probably done it. If you're into like meditation, my big thing right now is somatic therapies. I'm working on a lot of that and getting into my body, and a lot of breathing and sound and stretch and just things that get me into my body. I have done, I already said meditation. I have done life coach training. I have done shadow work. I've done a million things. I have read all the books. I have done courses. I have had coaches. I have done trainings. I have done group work. I've done one-on-one work. I've had clients. I've been a client of coaches and during certain programs and things like that. All of it. I have done it all. So now what I'm seeing though is that what all of my self-help and all of that has done is prepare me for like this moment in time. It's all been in preparation for this moment in time when every aspect of my life is up in the air, is in transition, and I feel grounded. I feel grateful. It's not that I don't feel stressed, but it's like I'm picking my stress because I'm picking my own challenges. It's like I'm deciding what's worth it in life. Before, my biggest challenge was, it is Monday morning and I do not want to go. It's Tuesday morning and I do not want to go. Wednesday morning, Thursday morning, Friday. It's Saturday morning and I have nothing left for me because I'm just too depleted. Going from that to getting off the hamster wheel to waking up in the morning and being like, I'm excited to get up. I'm excited to get up in the morning. Part of that was just the culmination of all the work that I have done on myself over the years. Another big part of this, and not going crazy when everything's in transition, is that I have learned to depend on myself. That I am my rock, that I am my source in a lot of ways, that the way I think about things, the way I perceive things, the way I look at my opportunities, the stories I tell myself, the power of my own metacognition. So looking at the ways I think about things and being able to change and tweak and say what works for me and try different things. Because we get stuck in these ways of thinking and being, and they're both very closely related. And to make any change at all, you have to do a lot of work, let alone to change everything at once. I might be a little crazy for doing everything at once, but hey, that's the way it all came down. And I'm not saying I haven't been emotionally processing. When I was driving here, I was processing, I feel like, different eras of my life. I was thinking about my first love. I was thinking a lot about relationships with men and how they have kind of defined my life. I thought about going more than 10 years when my kids were growing up without romantic relationships at all, because I just was not interested in focusing on that part at all. And now I'm a little bit back into it, but not too much, but a little bit, because I tend to be a very kind of almost all or nothing person. Like I kind of dive in head first, and that's not what I want to do right now. It's not where I want to put my energy right now. There's too many other things that are going on that I want and need to do. So that's where I'm at. I've been in Missoula 1 week. And if any of this, I'll tell you what, if you are still watching at this point, you could very well be one of my people. And I'm going to try to document this journey. I'm going to try to just say things out loud. I'm going to try to be as vulnerable and transparent and authentic as I can possibly humanly be, and just lay it on out there. Because one of the things I find extremely valuable is finding people who have done what I want to do, or find people who are doing what I want to do, doing similar things to what I'm doing. And what I mean by that is not van life necessarily. What I mean by that is deciding, this is what would make my life worth living. This is what I want in my life. And then moving forward from that place and taking baby steps all the time, and then building and creating that exact life that you have designed for yourself and making it happen. That is what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. And we'll use van life references and things because that's my life, but it doesn't matter what it is. The inner work is the same. The inner work is the same for all of us, and we all have different demons. One of my big demons in my life dealing with was victim. I felt like a victim growing up. I felt like, my parents are deficient in these ways, and it makes me feel like this, and I got the message that I wasn't good enough or whatever. Listen, our parents did the best they could. And sometimes that's good enough and sometimes it's not, but it doesn't change the fact that if you've done enough work on yourself, I'm convinced that you have let your parents off the hook. Maybe. I'm not going to make that generalization for everyone. Some people have been through really horrific things. I wasn't. But you get to a point where you realize, okay, all this stuff happened, and now what am I going to do with it? I will say that. If you've done enough work, whether you've forgiven everyone or not, you do think, okay, all that happened and that's a fact. And now what am I going to do? Am I using it? Am I using some of these things as an excuse why I can't have the life that I want? And if so, then is that true? And if I don't want it to feel true for me, then what little adjustment can I make that makes it feel like, oh, maybe it doesn't feel true. And I can do a whole video on that too. I have so many tools for helping ourselves through these tough times and everything like that. And a lot of times if I'm still suffering, it's because I'm not using the tools that I know. But also another big thing that has happened is not only to rely on myself, 100% responsible for my entire life, but number two, a lot of it is, what was I just going to say? It just went right out of my head. That I face my emotions head on. I'm not 100% with it, but I've been working so hard. And I used to, as a reforming people pleaser, I used to really put what other people felt above what I felt. And I used to stuff and deny and repress my own feelings because I was afraid to feel them and they felt bad, and I would just deny and avoid and repress. And it always comes up sooner or later. And right now I feel lots and lots of emotions here and there, and I will cry at the drop of a hat. And I'm convinced that that's wonderful. That's great, because I don't want to keep it in my inside anymore. And I also want to acknowledge how I feel. And then I can talk myself through whether I want to keep having that perspective or whether I can shift it or any of those things. All of those things are tools. All of those things are just learned ways, because I didn't learn any of that growing up. My conditioned ways of being are very unhealthy and are very codependent and very people pleasing and very be a good little girl. Be a good little girl. So I've come a long way, baby. And maybe you have too, or maybe you're feeling stuck. And I felt stuck for a very, 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 very long time. But this is about getting unstuck, and it's about creating the life that we have dreamed of. And if you're down for that, or you're interested in this at all, if you make it to the end, let me know in the comments that you made it to the end, and you deserve a medal. Thank you so much for being here, and hit the subscribe if you want more, and I'll keep sharing, and we'll do this. Okay, let's do this.